Tonight, recession on the horizon. Wages and stock values are down, while inflation and prices are up. Chancellor Carlson's diplomatic overtures. Ambassadors are jet-setting across the globe to sign new friendship treaties. A new political compass. 7 major political parties founded after a landmark appellate court ruling. And barely making quorum. Independents and minor parties picking up the slack for absentee government legislators. Good evening. This is Ryan Davenport with the KBC Evening News. Throughout the year 339 election season, Democratic Labour Party leader Wesley Carlson ran on a 5-point campaign. The candidate promised labor reform, increased law enforcement, environmental protections, university funding, and increased health funding. However, in the over 2 years since the election was finalized, the Chancellor has yet to deliver on a single election promise. Members of the General Assembly are beginning to protest the lack of active work, and there have been a number of walkouts staged by frustrated independents. Many days have seen the chamber barely able to make quorum. The Assembly President Tobias Verstrom yesterday said, "The members of the Assembly are displeased by the lack of action taken by the current government. It is unusual that such a large party not make any changes to improve our nation and instead sit idly by while we have citizens struggling every day. Shockingly, not even resolutions to improve security of our government officials have been proposed after multiple assassination attempts, some successful. I can only hope that we can see improvement within the Chancellery and for his ministers." End quote. While there are unsubstantiated rumors about a vote of no confidence in the DLPK government, most experts believe that the general elections are already so close that no party will actually follow through with such a tactic. Next, tax revenues are down. The San Chico Stock Exchange is flat. Unemployment is up, and wages are also down. Experts are no longer hiding behind complex legal terms or semantics. Today it's official. Kodiak is entering recession. Chancellor Carlson earlier today stated, "Kodiak is under the looming threat of recession, and unemployment is at an all-time high. We need to get people back in the workforce to ensure the prosperity of our well-being and economy. In our workforce, from teaching to manufacturing, the DLPK encourages and will help expand unionization. The top 1% holds the majority of wealth, which is also why we need a tax increase on the nation's wealthiest people to give back to the middle and lower classes. Affordable housing will be established to help homeless people in need." End quote. The Ministry of Social Services is reporting a 30% increase in homelessness and insecure housing, while rents continue to rise. At least 3 in 10 children are in households now classed as under the poverty line. Protests have begun again in a number of urban centers, led by officials from the Kodiak Federation of Industrial Unions. Secretary Patrick Barber, member of the General Assembly, was on site to lend support to the protesters. Quote, "This is not a recession that needed to happen. Our party, the Kodiak Workers' Party, has long demanded a policy of state housing. There is no reason for children to be on the streets or living in cars. Hard-working Kodiakers deserve better, and the saddest fact of all is, we have all the tools to do better, and haven't." End quote. The industrial unions are not the only organizations protesting. Conservative National Unity Party leader Oscar Luchens was also hosting a press conference in support of policy change. Quote, "We could have avoided this. The government failed the people. There was no plan, there continues to be no plan, and the ruling party is content to be asleep at the wheel. The National Unity Party continues to advocate for the people of Kodiak by taking control of our economy and, of course, correct these wild and irresponsible actions by the small group of unqualified risk-takers that got us into this mess in the first place. We need a government that is accountable for these types of failures." End quote. 2 years ago, Advance Kodiak, a small conservative charitable organization, brought a case to seek recognition of a nonprofit lobbyist organization. And, after a short legal review by the Kodiak appellate courts percepted on the constitutional provisions in favor of the right to freedom of speech, The court's decision has made political organizations legal in all jurisdictions. Paperwork has been finalized to recognize already 7 major political organizations, representing approximately 2/3 of sitting General Assembly members. While the Democratic Labour Party still holds the slim plural majority under Chancellor Carlson, he is under increasing pressure from Patrick Barber's socialist Kodiak Workers' Party, the right libertarian Chest & Co. political office run by their CEO, renowned international tax cheat Yung Li Shan, and Oscar Luchen's conservative National Unity Party. These major competing factions have already begun to wrest control away from the Chancellor, with a number of non-government-sponsored bills hitting the floor in recent months. Smaller but still significant parties include the Centrist Alliance for National Democracy, led by Hekmat Aliyev, the Technocratic Progress Party, led by President Tobias Verstrom, and the reformist-minded Jacobin Club, led by Wibbs Mobius. The vacuum left by the DLPK's recent political paralyzation has left the Assembly in considerable chaos. International observers expect natural coalitions to form before the next elections, slated to be held in January of 442. Antaria, Democratia, Myanmar, the Great North, and India, not simply nations you may have been expected to place on a map in 7th grade geography, but now 3 nations with which Kodiak has formally advanced friendly relations. The seeds of the Mondo Cabinet decision to join the United Regions Alliance 6 years ago have finally begun to bear fruit as Kodiak slowly begins to involve itself in international dialogue. Now, nearly 15 years since the end of the Kodiak flu, international investment and manufacturing have finally begun to enter our major cities, and the work of the Mondo Cabinet is the one to thank. Not everything is picture perfect, however. As with increased economic and immigrant activity across the northern border, tensions have also begun to elevate with our neighbor, the Great North. King Ellenberg and his government, often suspicious of the socialist organizations presently operating within the Kodiak Republic, have begun to release medieval documents which subtly suggest agreements with the former Bromanican kingdom actually lay the northern border 75 kilometers to the south at the Taiping River. Chancellor Carlson, at a press conference today, said, "Many years ago, when Kodiak first gained independence, many people, of which shared similar culture, language, and ideals, drew the new republic's border and ordinance with other kingdoms to ensure mutual prosperity. However, over the course of the last few months in retrospect to the Great North, we have had numerous border disputes with King Ellenberg, hinting that our northern border actually lies some 75 kilometers to the south, at the Taiping River. We are a nation of peace-seeking peoples, and my administration and I will defend Kodiak in an amicable manner." End quote. While international observers in the Assembly of Nations have assured the Kodiak government that recognition of our northern border is still solid at the River Darrant, recent discovery of dense bauxite deposits in the area have piqued interest from a number of international mining companies. Present estimates of the veins in the area are slated at over $2 billion trade dollars in raw bauxite, which could translate into $30 billion in processed alumina, or even $175 billion trade dollars in refined metallic aluminium. To community details now, notable roleplay dates that you may want to remember. It is presently the year 341, with the next election to begin first quarter 342, which will occur on the 30th of May, 2022. The year 645 election is expected to occur on the 22nd of August, and the 648 election will be on the 14th of November. May 10th marked 1 year since the Kodiak rebuilding effort began, drawing our region from a hibernation low of 4 nations up to our 2012 record of 180 nations, and then now up to a new record of 467 nations. Founders Day will take place on the 28th of July, representing 14 years since the end of the Kodiak Revolution against Brahmanica and Haddisty, with a cultural event expected to be hosted, which will include competitions, games, and other whimsical events. Yiklak Day will also be held on the 12th of November. The summer quiet has begun this month, with nation-states experiencing its annual summer attrition. Growth will not be expected to return until the second half of July, meaning that long-term community health will be based entirely on activity and player participation. The Kodiak modded Valheim server is still open and available to any Kodiaker citizens or citizens of allied regions. Details are available on the Kodiak Discord server, or an information request may be sent to Reichland. And to recap tonight's main story, the political vacuum left by the absent Carlson government is being haphazardly filled by a number of competing factions within the Assembly, but thankfully at least some tentative coalitions appear to have formed, with at least 2 new economy bills already being tabled for consideration by the NUP and KWP. And that's today's news. You can stay up to date by checking into your local KBC News radio station or by going online at kbc.net.kd/news. I'm Ryan Davenport, thanking you for joining us this evening. Have a good night.